If you're someone who lives with chronic pain, you know it can feel like you've hit a dead-end street. But what if there was another way forward? Today, we're going to explore a completely different path, one that shifts the focus away from just finding a cure and toward actively getting your life back. Let's dive in.
Sound familiar? For millions of people, hearing those words from a doctor feels like the end of the line. It's this moment of just deep frustration, and honestly, it's the exact point where our explainer really begins. And this is where so many people get stuck. You find yourself trapped in this first stage, this exhausting and, let's be real, often completely fruitless search for a cure.
Let's look at this story about someone we'll call Pat, because it's a journey so many people know all too well. You visit consultant after consultant, 6 of them. You spend thousands of dollars. You might even go through a surgery that unfortunately doesn't work. You try a bunch of different medications that come with their own nasty side effects. And at the end of it all, no clear answers and yep, the same old pain. It's a story we hear over and over again.
And that's the thing, right? After all of that, the effort, the money, the hope you pour into every new treatment you try, the pain is still there. This is exactly where that feeling of helplessness really starts to dig in.
But the burden isn't just physical. As all this piles up, there's this hidden emotional weight that comes along with chronic pain, something other people just can't see.
It often starts with the people who love you most. Suddenly, you're not just managing your own pain. You're also managing their anxieties, their desperate hopes for some kind of miracle cure for you.
And then there's work. You find yourself having to explain that no, you weren't on some relaxing vacation. You were struggling. It's this constant, exhausting cycle of having to justify your own experience. And of course, you get the comments. You know the ones. People might mean well, but hearing something like, "Aren't you better yet?" It can feel like a complete dismissal of what you go through every single day. So you add it all up, the medical dead ends, the pressure from family, the misunderstandings everywhere else, and it can lead to this really profound sense of isolation. You can feel panicky, like you've been abandoned, and just utterly alone in all this.
Okay, but right here, this is the turning point. This is where things can change. And the key to breaking that cycle, it's not a new drug or some fancy procedure. It's about completely reframing the problem itself.
And this idea right here is so powerful. Look, the pain, that physical sensation, that might be a constant in your life for now. You could say that part is mandatory. But the suffering, all the anger, the anxiety, the hopelessness that gets piled on top of the pain, that is optional. That is something you can actually do something about. So what does that mean? It means the goal shifts. You stop pouring every ounce of your energy into chasing a cure that might never come, and instead, you start investing that same energy into actively reclaiming your life with the pain. And that right there, that's where the power comes back to you.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is this just some positive thinking stuff? No, not at all. This approach is actually backed by some really fascinating science, and that's what gives it real, tangible hope.
The first big idea is something called self-efficacy. It's basically a term psychologists use for believing in your own ability to handle things. And what the research shows is pretty amazing. As your self-efficacy goes up, the power your pain has to depress or disable you goes down. You start seeing yourself as capable again.
And then there's this, which is just incredible, neuroplasticity. It means your brain isn't fixed. It's not hardwired. Through practices like mindfulness and new ways of thinking, you can physically change the neural pathways in your brain, altering how it actually processes and experiences pain signals. And what really seals the deal on this approach is this quote. The pain specialist who developed this very program eventually experienced chronic pain themselves. So they went from expert to patient, and through that lived experience, they can personally endorse these methods. I mean, that's about as powerful as it gets.
And the results? They really do speak for themselves. A foundational study on this program showed that participants cut their annual doctor visits by nearly half, from 12 down to 7. And beyond that, they also reported feeling less depressed, less anxious, and way more in control of their own lives.
So, how do you actually do all this? Well, it all comes down to building your own personal pain toolkit, filled with practical skills that are all about improving your quality of life.
This toolkit is built around 5 core skills. First, you've got to track what's going on to really learn how your activities, your stress, and your habits affect your pain. From there, you learn to manage your internal world by reducing stress with things like breathing and relaxation.
Step 3 is all about pacing and planning, so you can actually be more active with less pain. Then, a huge one, communicating your needs effectively. And finally, you put it all together to build new habits and plan a new life, even with the pain.
It is so important to remember this. This program isn't offering some passive, quick fix. It's about a fundamental shift where you are no longer just a patient waiting for a solution. You become an active, empowered part of creating that solution for yourself.
And that brings us to the final question, doesn't it? It's a choice. You can stay in that cycle of frustration, feeling like you're at the mercy of your pain. Or you can choose to take these tools, build these skills, and begin to live your life again, not without pain, but with hope. The choice ultimately is yours.